Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Fair Life. This is going to be a little bit more of a test show because, yeah, hello, Janine. I noticed you just asked about YouTube, and yes, should be on YouTube, and that's kind of what I've been testing. Yeah, it looks like the problem was mostly my fault last week, so I'll go ahead and take the blame on this. All me. I don't think it was a YouTube problem at all. Uh, OBS, the software I use to connect video and audio and everything to both Facebook and YouTube. Well, there were a couple of updates, and it looks like one of the settings got changed, or I changed it with the after the update. Something quirky happened. I should be fixed. So check that out and see if YouTube is working. Okay, Janine, I'd appreciate it because I think we're good. It looks like we're okay, but yeah, yeah, it's chat. There's no chat. I think it's just you because I see a chat, Damaris. Uh, yeah, I think it's just you. Everything seems okay. And hey, Jan and Harvey and Kat and Kathy. Okay, Facebook is good. That's good to see. And excellent. Okay, so YouTube is up as well. Okay, good, good, good. That is that's always the worry. Yeah, OBS did a bunch of updates kind of back to back, and yeah, I was trying to configure a few things, and I think I messed it up. So I'll go ahead and own it. I think it was me. Not going to pass the buck and say it was YouTube. No, it was. I'm pretty sure that one was all on me. So YouTube's reputation, for good or ill, is still okay. I'll leave that to you. And yes, excellent. Okay. Hey, Dan. And okay, Jan can see, and Sarit, hey, great to see you. So yeah, I think we're good. So this is going to be a little more of a test show just to make sure everything's good, because I just did do a bunch of updates with OBS and my software, and a little on my configuration too. So I guess I'm a little paranoid. Shocking, I know. But yeah, it is really weird when things like that happen, to try to diagnose them and make sure that everything is okay with you, how everything is configured. I'm sure you understand. But yeah, it is interesting. The last weekend at Sherwood was both kind of, well, a little stressful, but also kind of relaxing, because the weekend before had been a 3-day weekend, which is always a little much and overwhelming. So just doing 2 days was kind of nice change in a way. Yeah, a little easier, but it's definitely a little stressful. But it's also the halfway mark, so kind of interesting to have that halfway point in the middle of Faire. I mean, am I the only one, or do y'all kind of think about the halfway point in things you do, like whether it's a vacation or a work project, or any project you're doing, or hobby, or anything? Do you ever get to that halfway point and think about it, or realize it's the halfway point? I always do that. I mean, for me, it's kind of a big deal. I know it's a little weird because we kind of live in a society where, well, it emphasizes the beginning and the end of things more than anything else. You know how New Year's Eve for the end and New Year's Day for the beginning. You know, birth or death. You know, the whole beginning and the end is a lot of how things are set up. It's kind of strange, but one of my personal favorite things is the halfway point, because what I tend to do is I kind of take stock of where I am. I had all these plans at the beginning, and they don't always work. Some of them do. Some of them need to be adjusted, but the halfway point is a great time to do that. And you still have a good amount of time to make some changes and test to see whether that works. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Okay, Jen, sometimes that happens to you. Okay, that's a good point. Although software designers or developers, they sometimes have deadlines, and if you have that deadline, you know that when you hit that halfway point of when the deadline is to have the software done. So maybe when in those situations, if you don't have a deadline, well, congratulations, you have probably one of the lesser stressful software designer jobs, I would think. Yeah, and I totally get that too, Jan. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, partly because the fair is set up on a weekend by weekend basis, and I always know how many weekends there are. You always kind of know, so that's kind of how I always think of it. But it is an interesting time to kind of do that, just kind of think about it, and yeah, make some adjustments and see which direction you want to go. I do find it interesting that way. Hmm. But yeah, okay. I assume everything's still working on YouTube and Facebook and everything. I'm checking myself now, just to be sure. Yeah, yeah, okay. Hmm. Oh, I see. That's something that's on me. I'm not getting the chat over from Facebook into my app. I will from now on. Okay. So I fixed that. The chat should now be going into OBS. Good. Um, okay. Okay, Janine, yeah, you don't really uh, have the timing set up um, with the semester and all of that. Okay. Yeah, the midlife crisis thing. Janine's talking about the midlife crisis thing, but you don't ever know when you're halfway through. That is a good point too. That is a good point too. Yeah, if somebody can post another chat on YouTube, I would appreciate it because I want to make sure it comes through. Because if it doesn't, then that means I need to make a few adjustments later. But it should be working now. The earlier chats aren't going to transfer easily, but any future ones will. So yeah, if you get a chance, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess, other than that, we do have some stuff in the news, if you've been noticing, a little bit about Notre Dame Cathedral. For those of you who are familiar, back in, I mentioned this a few times in this show over the last several years, but back in 2019, Notre Dame. Okay, yeah, chat from YouTube came in. Thank you, Janine. Excellent. Got it. Woohoo. Yeah, 2019, it caught fire and caused a lot of damage. And they have been restoring it since, well, 2020 and really working hard on it. The French government said that they were going to do it in 5 years. And there were a lot of people that were very skeptical of that number, saying, with a project that size and that important, they just didn't see it happening. But it looks like they may not quite hit 5 years, but it's going to be really close. It sounds like it might actually happen by the end of the year, where it is ready to go and fully restored. So I don't know if any of you have followed. Hey, that's funny, Damaris. New name for the midlife crisis. Yeah, you're not wrong. That does seem like an old-fashioned way to phrase it, doesn't it? The midlife crisis. Maybe. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about that. Yeah, a halfway heads up or something. I don't know. Yes, yeah, Dan, you're totally right. That was part of the reason for the rush. But just from an engineering perspective, people were very skeptical that it could be done. But it looks like they did. Honestly, I think the timing, they were a little lucky because it happened in 2019, and they started developing all these plans over 2019 and early 2020, right before the COVID thing really started going crazy. And I think if it had happened a little later, well, they would have had other things to worry about, and it wouldn't have. It would have been very postponed by several years. So I think they got a lot of the early stuff figured out and heading forward. And then, of course, you have a lot of time where you have people who are shut in, who can't go out or staying at home or staying wherever they are. And they have time to plan and work on things and figure out logistics and have Zoom meetings and discuss the best way to do this or the best way to do that. And it really yeah, I think the planning stage, it really made things a lot easier. Not to say that it was good, but I'm just saying the timing could have been worse. So that was good. Late fall of life crisis. Wow, that actually sounds like a video game title, honestly, Harvey. Like fall of life crisis. Hmm. Coming to your Xbox this fall. Yeah, that just yeah. Yeah, that's maybe, but it'd be a good game at the very least. Hmm. But anyway, right now they're saying that they are about 90% done with the cathedral, which, wow, that's pretty huge. So, um, yeah, I think they might actually get there. So that is good to hear. Yeah, I don't know. For those of you, I think I have yeah, Notre, that's what it looked like before. And then, of course, yeah, uh, 2019 horrible fire, electrical fire that started in near the roof. So yeah, not France's finest moment, but and believe it or not, there were a group of people that were uh, advocating modernizing the cathedral, saying, "Hey, this is an opportunity to do a 21st century cathedral and really pull out all the stops." And the government shut that down very quick because they realized, and I think rightly so, that this was, well, one of the biggest tourist attractions in France and a very important cultural piece of France. And they did not want to lose that, not to create something new that might be good for religion, but it wouldn't necessarily be good for tourism or France. So I totally see where they were coming from that. Yeah, yeah, very much. It is a bit amazing that they were able to do that. 5 years. I mean, everything I read before about what different engineers who were experts in medieval architecture were saying were just, I don't think they can do this. That you really should not be able to do this in 5 years. It should not be possible, but they're going to try, and I am very impressed. I am very impressed. Oh yeah, and you're totally right about that, Jan. It wouldn't be the first time. They've made some serious adjustments to it over the centuries. I think in the 18th century and 19th century they did a lot of work on it, and yeah, it was a big deal. But and they've made adjustments here and there over the centuries. But that's generally the history of any building. I mean, you're always going to make adjustments, do repairs, and you're going to have to. But you get the catastrophe of a fire like this, and it always feels a little different. Yeah, just a bit, just a bit. But anyway, yeah, the last weekend had the Property Nagim Bard reunion show at Sherwood and my old band, and that was really that was different. I know a few of you saw that, but yeah, that was a little rough because we had it at this particular stage at Sherwood, and we haven't played there in a few years, and the sound pretty bad. There were a lot of problems with the sound on Saturday, and it definitely hurt the show a bit. On Sunday, uh, you know, the sound was better. There were still a few problems, but uh, I think both of us were so worried about the sound that it affected the show. If you can believe that, we were so stressed about the sound and trying to make sure it worked. When you had a few problems here and there, that's what we were thinking about, and not concentrating on doing a good show. And I'm not saying the shows sucked, but I mean there were definitely problems. So that really bothered me. Oh well, thanks. I appreciate that, Jan. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the beginning of the show was a little rough because we were dealing with a few sound issues, but I think the last few songs on the Sunday show we did a good job with. So we, brought it home in the end. But yeah, it's really tough. I mean, it's hard for me to throw stones too much at it either because so many stages are like that at Faire. Um, I mean, it's easier to be very forgiving at older fairs where the stages were built over 10 years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Before, back then, the small to medium sized stages, they never expected to put sound on them. The larger stages, maybe, but uh, normally it would be very much just one mic for somebody to speak. And that's how they approached it. It really wasn't all about music. And so it is a very different animal when you get to the older stages. But even newer stages now, it's very common for fairs to not really put music in their mind when they're designing and building it. Not at all. It's an afterthought. It's like, okay, where are we going to put the speakers now that the stage is built? That's kind of where they come from. It's always been a bit of well, a huge point of frustration for me, honestly. But at the same time, I get it because it'd be easy to nitpick and say, well, this fair does it right. And no, not many of them really do. I mean, I think some of them have done a better job at making up for it and taking the time to try to set up the sound and do a good job. But yeah, it's rough. I mean, to put it in perspective, one of the groups we shared the stage with, Rover's Way, they are going off to Scarborough this next weekend, but they've been at Sherwood for the last 4 weekends. They were so fed up with that stage, they don't even use their sound. They don't use the sound system from there. They use their own. They brought their own out there and use it because they are just not happy with the way it's set up, and I don't blame them. When you get for music, it's not a great stage. If you have 4 or 5 people in your group, you can kind of cheat a little bit, and if one person is maybe not as loud as they should be, or there's some mixing problem, or some distortion or something, well, the other instruments will kind of hide that problem a good bit. You get an overall good sound. It's easier. But with 1 or 2 musicians, I mean, any problem, and it's very obvious. You can't hide it. And that's an issue. Oh, maybe a little. I mean, for the show, I don't really know if we psyched ourselves out, but we were kind of like, okay, Saturday, the sound was a little off, but I think we got it. I changed my mic setup and was thinking, okay, we'll have it for today. And then we still had problems, and that was really frustrating. Yeah, very frustrating, actually. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that you can tell stages that are designed uh, for good acoustics because they don't look like a standard palette with a backing. I mean, it's pretty easy to tell for anybody who knows anything about sound engineering at all, even just a little, to say, oh, yeah, that was designed for sound. Because, yeah. Generally, stages are built with 2 things in mind. Either simplicity, they're just trying to fill a spot. We've got that corner, what do we put there? How about we put a stage? And they throw a palette on there at first, and then eventually that area grows, so they build it and put a backing to it, and it's a slightly raised stage with a back, and that's where their mindset goes. The other route they sometimes go is instead of just convenience, it's more of a we want to build this area, and we want something. We want to grow this, but they still don't really think of sound. It is frustrating. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard. People were saying that if the if you went too far back, you really couldn't hear, so you had to move up really close. Um, yeah, Mark mentioned that he didn't do the "Do Virgins Taste Better" song. Um, yeah, he got in, and we really didn't get a chance to practice, and that was certainly a problem that I'm talking to Mark about for sure. That was very frustrating. This next weekend, we'll be practicing a lot this week, so that won't be a problem. But yeah, like the first song on Sunday, Mark threw in a song that was not on the list. I was not expecting. And then he forgot the lyrics halfway through, and we had to stop and do a different song. I don't know why he chose that one, or something. I guess it popped in his head, and he thought, hey, let's give this a try. This might work. And which you can do, but it's tough when you haven't played it in a while. And like I said, I think we were so distracted by the audio problems that really made it a lot more difficult to concentrate on some of that. Yeah, I mean, it happens. I mean, it's one of those where, I mean, it'd be easy to say, "Oh, this person's fault or that person's fault," or it was more just there's a lot we could have done a lot of little things that would have helped, but there was a lot that was beyond our control. And if you can point to a lot of different people and say, "Oh, if they had done this or they had done that," yes, that would have helped, but it wouldn't have fixed everything. There was a lot of little things working against us, and that was the problem. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not even sure if I want to try to do that stage next weekend. I'm on the fence about that. I'm going to talk to Mark about that and talk to the entertainment director and see what we do, because that was a little weird. Mm. Yes, Jenny, you're totally right. I mean, I've mentioned this on this show before that really, ideally, what you want is you want to have all all your instrumentation acoustic, and then you want to have it sound like uh, the person is front row center, the best seat in the house, and you want to deliver that type of sound to all the seating as best as you can. That's the goal. And the problem is there are some groups that don't look at it that way. They look at it like a rock band that they couldn't play acoustic. That's not even with their instrumentation. It's not even possible. They couldn't do it. So they blast really loud to add where the the sound is part of yeah, the projection is part of their sound, the part of their motif, and it's that actually kind of bothers me. I'm not a fan of that, but some fairs are fine with it, and it's weird. Yeah, that was the other problem. They lost a couple of sound people from last year, and that has really caused a problem. They were spread very thin, and yeah, um, yeah, yeah. I mean, the sound guy who he wasn't there the whole time. He was there on Saturday. He wasn't there on Sunday. We until the end. We talked to him afterwards, and he said that if we wanted to do a sound check Saturday morning, but like I said, I'm not even sure I want to do that stage because I as a musician, I actually despise that stage. I'm just gonna say it. I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but I really do. I don't like that stage. I think it works for some groups, and I think it works for some acts. And I get that it's a kind of a nice place to go as for a patron, because the way it's set up, it certainly has a very inviting feel to it when you go in. And if you want to hang out with your friends and talk, but still have the show or the music in the background, you can get far enough away to do that. So I mean, there's a lot of advantages, but it's just sound wise, it's a bit of a mess. Um, really? Well, that's wild. Um, I didn't know that. That's kind of wild. I consider that a problem. I don't think I think if you can hear us backstage and in the road really well, then they're doing it wrong, because you don't want to use it for hawking. You want to use it to just make clear sound for all the people sitting down. Anything more, it should be a distant whisper. And if it's not, I think that's a bad sound setup in my mind. Hmm. Yeah, I'm with you, Jan. Yeah, not no, not Mark tonight, but I don't know. We are doing Mark and I are doing a sort of an online streaming show on Thursday night. So do come check that out if you'd like. That would be Thursday night at 7. We're doing it through Dragon Con, as a matter of fact. So you can go to the Dragon Con Filk track, and I'll post on the Facebook page with links and everything to it in the next couple of days. So don't worry. Just keep an eye out for that. But yeah, Thursday night at 7 Central is the time. I think it's 7. Yeah, 7 Central is the time. And Yeah, we'll be playing for I think a good hour. So yeah, come around and check that out. So you will get your guest appearance, Chris. Don't worry. Yeah, I mean, some people do, and I think it's just a style. And if you like that style, great. But I just don't think that style has a place at at Faire, which is sort of generally you're supposed to in my mind, Faire is about recreating what music was like, kind of, at least a bit, from medieval and Renaissance times. At least the flavor of it. And when you do a very modern approach to audio, there's not really anything left that was. I mean, that type of sound could never exist in medieval or Renaissance times, even if they wanted to. You couldn't go back in time and do that because it's just not possible. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that was the that was Volgamut. And I didn't really hear them, so I don't know. I don't know how they sounded, but um, yeah, that's who was before, and then Rover's Way was after. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Glad you like the fill track. Yeah, like I said, I will be posting it in Facebook, and uh, yeah, I'll have a link for everything. Oh gosh, it's already 7:27. We've been talking, haven't we? Yeah, I can go on about sound and stages for hours, so I got to watch that. Yeah, and Alicia's not on tonight, so she's not here to reel me in and say, "Hey, stop talking," which she's so good at. Yeah, let's jump in and do a quick yeah, a quick Faire list. And luckily there's not much, so that makes it a lot easier. You can see there's only 4 fairs going on this weekend. This is one of those weird nodes in the middle of the spring that where there's in between uh, the late winter fairs and the spring fairs. So the only 4 fairs going on this weekend. Really strange, really strange. Um, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the ideal. I mean, really, okay, just real quick, throwing this out. My dream is to like do a stage where it's set up to be great unplugged, but if you need it, you can easily set it up where you just raise the volume with a little amplification, a hair, just to get a little more if you need it. But that's it, and it's so subtle that it almost still sounds unplugged. That would be the goal. That would be my goal if I was to do it. So yeah, but um, the best laid plans. Heh. Anyway, let's go full and get this out of the way. Um, yes. Okay. Let's see. Okay, the feline friendly version. And okay, well, this is pretty easy. We have the last weekend of the Bay Area Renaissance Festival in Dade City, Florida. This is the 7th out of 7 weekends, with the theme being sweet endings. Let's just break tradition. I usually go east to west, but let's jump over to Arizona over here. And it's the last weekend there too of the Arizona Renaissance Festival in Apache Junction, Arizona, and ninth weekend. Out of 9, and the theme is Hop On Out to Final Weekend. So yeah, those are those January, February, March kind of fairs that go on, and this is the end of those as they go. Then we can come over to where I am at Sherwood, right over here, and Sherwood Forest Fair in McDade, Texas. This will be the 5th out of 8 weekends. Like I said, halfway point. So yeah, definitely come out for that. And northwest of that is the Heartlands Renaissance Festival. They're doing 7 weekends, and this is the 5th weekend of that one too. They're kind of mirroring Sherwood, which is, I still, considering how close they are, I still find that really interesting. They're doing their soft opening for 7 weekends. So I'm really looking forward to hearing how that went. And I know a couple of the performers over there, so I'm going to be talking to them and after the fair is over and kind of try to get an idea of what the future of that is, because that was a very ballsy choice, I guess is how to say it. You don't normally see fairs do a soft opening with 7 weekends. That's really wow. So yeah, I'll be curious to see how that goes. Okay, well, there we have it. Not too bad. So just just a few minutes to get through the fair list. That was nice. Much easier. But it's not going to be like that next weekend. We're going to have, for the following weekend, we're going to have a bigger list of fairs going on, and it's just going to grow and grow as the spring continues. So heading into the summer, because this is where the weather gets fairly reasonable. But for around on that. Yes, there is the Easter that will be celebrated. So that's always a good weekend. Now we'll see how that goes. Some fairs, they do fairly well with the Easter holiday. Others not so well. I mean, I think it really depends on the area, because you're right. They're usually on Sunday. There's a lot going on on that morning. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. But generally, Sherwood does pretty well with Easter, I've found, comparatively to some of the other fairs. They do a pretty good job. So I will give them a lot of credit on that. But anyway, I guess let's go ahead and call it there. And thanks for joining me. I think this was a successful test, and I think I figured out. And yep, exactly. That's kind of, sometimes on Sunday you get some afternoon people. But yeah, I think YouTube and Facebook are all figured out. So good. And now I can start looking and seeing if I want to do Twitch, because I was looking at that before, and then when this happened last week and YouTube wasn't working, I stopped and paid attention to try to make sure that was working okay. But yeah, I am thinking in the not too distant future of maybe doing Twitch as well. So I will be looking at that. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I think it's going to be one of those things I think it's going to work out really well, or it's going to be something I decide, probably a mistake, and I'll stop. But one or the other. So we'll see. But all of you, I'm still be doing Facebook and YouTube, so you don't have to worry. You can just follow me here. So no worries at all. And yeah, I will do a 7 Reasons next week. Hopefully 7 Reasons Why the Brobdingnagian and Bard Show Rocked is hopefully what I'll be doing. That's the goal. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I was nice and didn't do the loud beep sound, that tone, because that always irritates me. So yes. Oh, and it's the Lionheart stage, Chris, not Lion Gate, but I get it. Yeah, Lionheart stage. It's next to the Joust. So how the distance? I mean, it's pretty much a straight shot from that main road. You just go down that main road and you'll hit the stage. I mean, it pretty much ends at the stage. So yeah, I mean, the good news is you don't have to go uphill. Pretty much, it's kind of a straight shot. So, but it is a little distance, but it still is down on the lower part of the hill. So it's not too bad. So at least you have that. Broadway noggin. That's okay. That's actually one of the better ones I've heard people use. I might have to use that on the show. Yeah, I think so. And oh, okay, yeah, and that's true. Chat, uh, all the different systems have their strengths and weaknesses, and that's kind of why I'm thinking of Twitch, just to have a different possibility for people to, if they feel more comfortable. So we'll see. But that's what I'm working on, and we'll get to it. But all of y'all have a great week, and I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Monday for another edition of Fair Life. Why? Because we got to make it as fair as we can. Take care. Bye.